You wanted the mosque?
The mosque, yes. The mosque near Ground Zero, not the Ground Zero
not a
mosque.
That's not at Ground Zero?
That's right, the Interfaith Center.
Well, look, the first thing is, I think this is what you think is going to surprise people. I mean, I think obviously they should have their damn mosque.
That's right.
You know, I'm not very, very much in favor of mosques.
Yes.
You know, I don't think these are places, all synagogues or churches or, you know, places of religious observance are not really my favorite place of recreation. But clearly people want them, they should have them. You know, and it seems to me absurd to say that when you've already got a mosque 4 blocks from Ground Zero, and closer than that you have a strip club and a gambling joint, that it somehow desecrates the site by putting a mosque 2.5 blocks away. And it gets you into sort of crazy conversations about how large is the exclusion zone.
Right.
You know, how large a Muslim-free zone do you have to build around Ground Zero? And let's remember that many Muslims died in the World Trade Center.
There were about 60 who died.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of the largest single terrorist attacks against Muslims. The destruction of the World Trade Center, and actually in the trade towers there were rooms consecrated as mosques, which were used for the Muslim workers in the building, you know, every day. So it seems to me that if there was a mosque in the trade towers, which was there without objection, it seems ridiculous now to say that you can't have a mosque 3 blocks away, because it somehow offends people.
There used to be a neighborhood called Little Syria in Lower Manhattan, which was demolished to make way for the World Trade Center. And Little Syria had Syrian Christians and Muslims. It was a thriving Arab neighborhood.
Yeah.
A lot
mostly,
of them moved
mostly
to
Christians,
Brooklyn.
to be fair, I mean, but there were Muslims there. Yeah. I mean, look, Lower Manhattan, it's got all kinds of garbage. Either you're going to turn it into some kind of I don't know what, you know, sanitized holy ground, or else, which would be much better, let's build some damn buildings there and let it get back to being a city, a part of the city. You know, I mean, that's the best thing to do with the terrible thing that happened there, is to reclaim it for New York City and let it be a part of the city, instead of trying to, you know, surround it with reverence. I mean, I'm not trying to say that there isn't real reason to be upset, you know, and it may well be. I mean, what's his name, Imam Rauf,
Yes.
said yesterday that if he had thought that it would have created so much upset, he might well have reconsidered the location. You know, it just didn't occur to him that this disused coat factory would be in some way an improper place to put a community center.
In India, we have a phrase which is often used in the newspapers, and it goes this way: police cancelled an event because the sentiments of a particular community could be hurt.
Could be injured.
Could be hurt or injured. Yeah. Now, this is incomprehensible to non-Indians, but all Indians and many South Asians know that this means that either the Muslims were upset, or the Hindus were upset, or the Christians, or the Sikhs. And I remember when I co-wrote a Bollywood movie called Mission Kashmir, the sentiments of a particular community were hurt.
Had nothing of this film.
And it happened to be the Sikh community, because they objected to a scene in the film in which a Sikh policeman was seen wetting his pants from fear. And the Sikhs rioted because they thought this reflected poorly on the martial prowess of their race. Now, in India, we're used to skirting these hurt sentiments and calling off events and moving mosques and temples. But it seems to me this is new in this country. And I guess the majority of the American people are in favor of moving the mosque in order to avoid hurting the sentiments of the families of the 9/11 victims. But they forget, as you point out, that a number of them were also Muslims.
Yeah. And the families are not united on the subject.
Right.
I mean, there have been some of the families who, in fact, demonstrated along with the pro-mosque group. You know, so that isn't a united front either. But yes, you're right. The large majority of people favors the mosque being somewhere else. And I think, look, for my mind, it's not yes, there's a very large emotional issue, which is clearly what this has become. This is not, in the end, people are not arguing from reason, they're arguing from feeling, and not always the best way to argue, but that's sort of what's happening. But the simple fact is that one of the things that I most admire about the United States is the First Amendment. And if you read the First Amendment, it guarantees with equal weight the freedom of speech and the freedom of religious observance. These things are united in the First Amendment. You can't then say that we, of course, admire the part of the First Amendment which respects freedom of speech, but we don't care so much about the freedom of religious observance. The two things are the same thing. It's the same two or three, it's a very short amendment. And in fact, it's mostly about the freedom of religious observance, and free speech kind of skates in the back door, So if this is the country we live in, and that's its constitution, we have to respect it. We have to respect it. And you have to allow people to have that freedom. Even if I, myself, would prefer it if people did not have religious observance. that would be more to my liking. But unfortunately the world is full of things I don't like.